Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric. I'm an alcoholic, and I want to thank Howard and Kathy for having me here. This is truly an honor and a privilege to be able to come in and share this kind of time with you guys. I'm going to set my timer here. Um, so we're in fear. We're still in fears, and sorry, I don't know why I keep doing that. 2 seconds. Oh wait, six. There we go. You guys just heard my passcode, so you can hack my phone at any point. It's on recording too. So we're still on page 68 here. And what I want to do is I just want to talk about this idea of I want to kind of review before we hit those last two paragraphs and wrap up about fears. Um, you know, when I look at this inventory and I look at the four columns, it starts off with resentments, and there's this column that's titled cause, and in the beginning when I first embark upon this process, I think that this is the cause, this resentment, why I'm resentful, what they did to me is the cause for all of my problems, right? And I believe that, but as I start to go through this process, I start to discover that really it's not the cause. It's not the cause of my disturbance. It's not the cause of my alcoholism. Where I'm going to find the cause truly exists and lies in the third and the fourth column. That's where those things exist, right? So I'm going to flip back 2 seconds for a reason here. And when I go to page 62, it says, so our troubles we think are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. When I started with this process, going through this inventory, and I arrived at this point with fears, I, you know, the truth is that I could have read that all of my problems are out of my own making, but I still have that column with the causes of who I'm blaming. And it's this idea that they are my problem. What they did is my problem. If this didn't happen, I would not have this problem, right? But that's not the truth. So as I continue to go through this inventory, we start with resentment, but that's the first layer of the onion. Really, what we need to do is get further into the onion, and we find out that behind the resentment that there's fear, right? And that fear, I'm going to discover that in that third column with everything where it says what the effects my. But then when I get into the fourth column and I start to look at everything from an entirely different angle, even in there, I'm going to discover that I had certain behaviors. There's certain things that I did that caused this person to behave the way that they did to end up in my second column, if you will, right? And if I look at the actions that I took that caused them, because earlier in the book it says we started the ball rolling, they retaliated seemingly without provocation. If I look at what I did, I can assure you that there was a fear behind that as well. So I'm bookending this deal with fear, both on at the end after what they've done and before what I forced them to do. It's coupled with fear. I'm surrounded by fear, and I wouldn't have known that, right? My life is totally dominated with it. So we're going to say this is what it says we do. We review our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper. We've already discussed this. We're going to look at them, and then we're going to ask ourselves, why do we have them? Why do I have this fear, right? Well, let's go to this paragraph here. It says, well, you know what? Let's do it this way. It says, we asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? That's ultimately when I ask myself why I have it. If I'm really honest, that's exactly why I have this, because self-reliance failed me, right? So what I like to do with some of these fears sometimes and walk them all the way through to the end, because sometimes I say, well, it really wasn't self-reliance. It's because I was afraid of having a broken heart. So let's just take a look at this. So I can say, I'm afraid that I was going to have a broken heart. So if I get a broken heart, what does that mean? Right? That means that I have a broken heart because I'm alone. Okay, that's my fear. Okay, what's my fear of being alone? My fear is that I'm always going to be alone. Okay, well, what's my fear of always being alone? My fear of always being alone is that I'm going to die, or that there is no God, that there's no one there to keep me safe. There's no one there to keep me protected. And what does that cause me to do? That causes me to rely upon self. So when I walk all of these fears through all the way to the end, I always arrive back at a point where I'm totally relying upon self. I don't care whether it's finances. I don't care whether it's my physical safety. I don't care if it's my emotional safety. I don't care what it is. It always, when I walk it back, it always comes back to two things. My fear is that there is no God and I have to rely upon myself. And the reality is that I know that I'm finite and I don't have the power to pull this deal off. So what do? I'm going to act and behave in certain ways that's going to hurt people and offend people and push them away from me. I'm going to continue to set this ball in motion. I'm going to step on the toes of my fellows, and they are going to continue to retaliate. Now, here's the deal. That is of my own making. However, where we're at right now in fears is that we're getting a set of directions where we can start to become free from these fears, right? Where I don't have to continue to manufacture these type of troubles for myself and for other people. And that's the beautiful thing. There's a misconception about this that we wait till we get to step 6 and 7. That's not true. We actually have a set of directions right now where we're going to take these fears directly to God right here in this 4 step. We're not waiting. It gives this to us this way. It says, perhaps there is a better way. We think so, for we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves, right? I already described how trusting upon my finite self, how that fails me, right? So we know that that's a problem. So we are in the world to play the role he assigns. Did you notice that there's that part in there? We're in the world to play the role he assigns, not the role that I'm creating. It's not my screenplay. There's someone else is the author here, and I'm here to follow that role, not mine, right? But I find in the inventory, I'm the one who's been writing the screenplay. I'm the one who's written this, right? I'm not looking for God's direction. I'm not looking to play the role he assigns. I want to play the role I assign myself, right? I also want other people to play the role I have assigned them. So it goes on, it says, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us and humbly rely on him, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity. Thus, really what happens is that I can start living not necessarily life on life's terms, but now I can start to live life on God's terms. See, I can't handle life on life's terms. It's really painful. That's a tough way to live, right? So today, since I've turned my will and my life over to the care of God, I'm going to live my life based on God's terms, whatever it is that he wants. So let's go back and take a look at that. We're in a world to play the role that he assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us and humbly rely on him, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity. So it's this idea of trusting in God and relying upon God. Later on in the book, I have in step 11, the word rely comes up again when they're talking about this vital intuition, inspiration that we're going to receive from God. And I've got the definition written down on the bottom of my book on page 87. And it simply says to depend upon with full confidence, with full trust. That's what it means. I'm going to depend upon God with all of my trust and all of my confidence, right? That's really what we're focusing on. And that's what we're talking about here. We're in the world to play the role that he assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us, and humbly trust and rely, depend upon him. Does he enable us to match calamity with serenity? See, this power isn't coming from Eric. I don't have this power to match calamity with serenity. I don't have it. It's this dependence and this reliance that I'm putting upon God because I'm trusting in him rather than my finite self, that I can look at this and say, I don't have the power to handle this. I don't have the power to fix this. I don't have the power to walk through this fear, but God's got it. God's got me. No matter what happens to me, if I ask her out and she says no, I'm going to be okay. God's going to take care of me. If I ask her out and she says yes, I'm going to be okay. God's going to take care of me, right? If I apply for the job and I don't get it, I apply for the promotion, I don't get it, or if I just simply get fired because the economy's bad and there's layoffs, it's okay. God has got me. If I get bad news from the doctor and I've got health issues, okay, God has got me, right? I am depending and relying upon God. I'm not relying and depending upon my finite self any longer, right? The way that I did it before is that if my job were threatened and financially I was feeling threatened, there's things that I would do. I would definitely try to secure my position at work. I would try to do it in a way where I'm going to try to make other people look bad, make myself look better, so the focus goes on them rather than on me. So when they're looking to cut back, they're going to think about cutting them back instead of me. But this only gets me in more trouble because now I'm stepping on the toes of my fellows. They're retaliating. Now I look like the jerk. Nobody wants to talk to me, and I feel like I'm the victim. But that's not the truth. When I peel back that onion, it's all, I started it all. I started the ball rolling. I put myself in this position, and it all started with my fear. I was not trusting and relying upon God. I was trusting and relying upon myself. But I have to remember that I made this decision back in the 3rd step, that I have a new employer. I've got a new father. I've got a new principal. I've got a new boss. They're the ones that's God's I'm answering to. He's the one who's going to take care of all of this for me. And if I do that, I'm able to match this calamity with some serenity. It goes on and says, we never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. I could actually laugh at myself because I used to think that, right? I used to think that, right? You know, it's a little silly. I think you got to like kind of plow through these problems, but you plow through enough problems and you hit the wall enough times, you start to realize maybe that isn't the way to go. And then you start to have an experience with God and letting these things go and having God come into your life, and you start to realize maybe that's actually the way of strength after all. So it says, we never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it's the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. I absolutely love that sentence. And you're going to hear it around in the rooms if you haven't already, that if you have fear, you don't have faith, and so on and so on. And you know what? The way that I see it like this is that I can have faith in God and I can still have fear. What I need to do is I need to ask for courage, right? And what I'm not going to do here is I'm not going to try to remove my own fear, but what I am going to try to do is I'm going to try to move forward facing my fear with courage while asking God to remove these things, giving me the courage to march forward, right? And and it's going to go on. And this is what it says. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. And instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. I want to repeat that, right? We let him demonstrate through us what he can do, not what I can do. And I'm not asking God to give me the strength to show you guys what I can do. What it is that I'm asking God to remove these fears so that he can come through and he can demonstrate through me what he can do. Remember the agreement we made back in the third step when we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God? In that decision, we made that agreement with God that we were going to let him demonstrate through us, right? We're going to bear witness to others, his strength, his love, what he can do in my life, not what I can do in my life, not what I can do. I've already shown the world what I can do with my life. That's clear. The evidence is in, the results are in my four-step inventory, right? There, it's all there. It's clear what I do. I cause a lot of harm. Now we're in a different business of trusting and relying upon God, letting God come in and letting him demonstrate through us what he can do. This is where these miracles start to happen. When you're coming in AA, you got 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year, you're out there making amends. And you go from this person that's an absolute lunatic, a devastating mess, that's full of nervousness and anxiety, you can't hold a job. Suddenly you have a job, you're making money, you're self-supporting, you're able to look people in the eyes, you've cleaned up, you're looking better, you've got relationships, and people sit there and they say, how the heck could this happen? Like, what did you do? What are you doing? I mean, you must have gone to a Tony Robbins seminar. Don't lie to me. It was Tony Robbins, right? And this is what people do, and they don't believe you. But the deal is that I'm not doing it. And sometimes people don't accept that. They don't want to hear that. Sometimes they're offended by when you say, I'm not doing it, it's God. Of myself, I am nothing. It's the Father within that's doing the works. I'm trusting this God that I found deep down inside of me. People say, no, that can't be possible. I know you're definitely doing something. What's the secret sauce here? You're listening to Tony Robbins audio on the side, aren't you? I know you are. It's got to be that's what it is, right? You got a therapist and a life coach. Let's fess up. But the reality is that if you've been through this and you've been so broken by this deal, you know that this isn't about therapy. This isn't about self-help. This is about God help. This is about getting out of the way and letting God do for us what we could not do for ourselves. And that's the miracle of all of this. And I want you to know, and I'm going to say some stuff that may sound a little bit crazy, and some of you may think he's a little off his rocker here, but I'm going to tell you, God wants to show off in your life. He wants to show up and show off in your life. He wants to take you. If you're like me, I'm a walking, talking, stone cold loser. That's the truth. That's what I do with my life. That's what I am. And he shows off in my life today, right? He shows off not just to my family, but to my wife's family. I just got off the phone with my mother-in-law. Why is that? She's calling me because A, she wants advice, but B, she also wants to tell me how much she loves me and how proud she is that I'm her son-in-law. That wasn't the case, guys, at one point. That was not the case. I assure you of that. I had a sister-in-law call me the other day. I need your help. Can you help me? I need some advice. How is this even possible? How is this even possible? Nobody wanted my advice before. It's because of the demonstration that God has made through my life by me just allowing him to do these things, right? So I'm gonna finish this up. It says, all men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God, and we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. Here's the directions. We ask him to remove our fear. We ask him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be, to what he would have us be, not what he'd have us do, but what he would have us be. At once we commence to outgrow fear. At once. So, guys, while we're writing this inventory and you're writing down these fears and you're knocking them off, bang, 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 self-reliance failed me, self-reliance failed me. What's the next thing I'm doing? Is I'm doing this inventory. I'm asking God to remove these fears. That's what I'm doing. I'm asking him to remove these fears right here on the spot. That's what I'm doing. That's what it says we do. We ask him to remove these fears and to direct our attentions to what he would have us be. Um, the last thing I'm going to say about this, because my 15 minutes is up, is that, and I kind of said it already, is that God kind of wants to show off in all of our lives. Uh, it's at this point where when I ask God to remove these fears and I can show up, is that I am no longer in that position where I am the creator of all of my problems, right? I'm not the creator of any of my problems anymore. Don't get me wrong. I'm still going to create some problems, but I've moved out of that position. And this is where I began to have a really powerful spiritual awakening while writing my inventory. Because when I went into this inventory, I felt like the world was against me and that there wasn't a chance. I didn't feel like there was any chance whatsoever for me to have any peace, happiness, joy, security, or feel decently about myself. But as I went through this, I realized that the reason why I was in all these positions is because I was relying upon myself. But now I have this hope. I've got this hope and I've got this promise. And that's exactly what this is that if I can trust and rely and depend upon God with full confidence, with everything that I have, and I can face all of these things with courage and move forward with my focus being on God, I can have a much different experience in this world and allow God to demonstrate through me what it is that he can do. And then people will start asking, how the heck is this happening in your life? Thank you so much for letting me share, guys.
Actually, Eric, you can continue. We got some more time up here.
Oh my God, I thought it was 15, 20 minutes.
Nah, 25 minutes from when you start, but it's okay. Whatever you want to do. Go for
Okay,
it.
yeah. Okay. So what do we want to do? Do we want to stay on fears or do we want to move into sex?
It's up to you.
All right. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we start off? Why don't we start heading that way into sex? How about that?
It's
You,
your microphone.
I'm sorry?
It's your microphone. Go for it.
All right, you got it. All right. So here's the thing. So we've got a resentment inventory, and it's this onion. We're peeling it back. We peel the onion far enough back, and at the core, it's fear. It's fear, right? So now when we move on, we're going into another inventory. Inventory number 3, step 4, part 3. Now about sex. And I just, I want to talk about this here for a second because I hear a lot of people say it's not about sex, it's about relationships. Well, you know what? I don't think Wilson messed up when he put sex. I don't think it was an oversight. I think he was really clear about what he was talking about. It's about sex. Now, just like the inventory, the resentment list is about resentments. It's about resentment. The fear is about fear, and this is about sex. All three of these areas involve relationships, right? More often than not, in one way or another. So let's take a look at this. Now, about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there. Does anybody here not know what an overhauling is? Right? And so I'm just going to tell you, like I'm going to use like a race car engine for an example. You pull this engine out of that car. It's off the chassis. It's up on the whatever holds it up, and they start stripping the engine down. They take it all apart. All the gaskets come out. All the parts come out, and everything that needs to be replaced gets replaced with brand new parts, new seals, new gaskets. They put it all back together. When they put the bolts on, there's a certain amount of pressure that has to be on each bolt, not too much, not too little. Otherwise, they're going to blow out of the engine or they're going to snap, so on and so on. There's a lot of precise detail that goes into reassembling that engine. And once it's reassembled, that sucker should hum. should be beautiful, should be fantastic. And the reason for that is because it's not running well at that point. So it needs that overhauling. So it says many of us needed an overhauling here. But above all, we tried to be sensible on this question, right? Sensible. That's the idea. We don't want to get ridiculous about this. We want to be sensible, okay? It's easy to get way off track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, and that is for sure. I know that I have some extreme ideas, or I did, right? I know other people have extreme ideas in other directions, right? So it says this here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes, perhaps. Sometimes it really is absurd. One set of voices cries that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity for procreation. That's it. Just to procreate. That's it. Make babies, nothing else. Then we have the voices, my voice, if I'm going to be honest, who cry for sex and more sex. Give me as much as you can. You drive through the McDonald's, drive through, supersize it, supersize my sex. That's what I'm talking about, right? You're okay. So, and it says sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage. Are you kidding me? I've got to stay loyal to one woman. What? She's married, so what? What does that have anything to do with anything right now? Come on. I mean, this is sex, baby, right? And I used to have this lame thing I used to say, it's biological, as though that was my justification. It's I'm a man, I'm male. It's biological, right? No, no, throw that out. I don't want to hear it. I got guys that bring that up with me when we're working. I say, I don't care about your biology. It's got nothing to do with biology, my man. Nothing at all. Okay. So here we go. It says, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it. Oh my God, is that not the truth? Is that not what I thought? Or that it isn't the right kind. I need freaky sex, right? I need this, I need that. It needs to be more flavorful. It's got to be colorful. Can we bring the acrobats in? Can we get a whole team of people in? Let's make this fun, right? It's boring. Gosh, if she would just listen and work with me, this would be okay. Come on, right? You guys get the idea. I needed a serious overhauling in this department, I promise you. Okay, so they see the significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, which is how I felt. It's all boring and bland and blah, 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 blah. And the other would have us on a straight pepper diet, really hot, really sexy and spicy. That's me. That's the way I want it. Yep, let's get it going. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct, right? I don't want to be, when I'm working with someone, I do not want to be the arbiter of your sex conduct. I'm not here to tell you whether you're having too much of it or too little of it or the wrong kind or whatever. That's not my job, and I'm not interested in it. I really, like, honestly, I don't care what your little kinks are. It's not about that. That's really not what it's about, unless they're hurting someone, unless they're causing harm. That's when it becomes an issue. If we're not causing any harm, it's okay. It's really okay. So let's go on. It says we all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. Did you hear that? We all have sex problems, right? Not all alcoholics. We all have sex problems. We'd be hardly be human if we didn't, right? There's always something going on in this department. What can we do about them? Well, we can review them, right? Now, I have gone through this inventory a couple different times. We're going to come up with this list, and it tells us that we're going to make a list of these people. Now, I've done this a couple of different ways, okay? So it, I'm going to tell you, the first one was just write out all the girlfriends that you had. Okay, I wrote that out. Yeah, maybe kind of good, maybe not so hot. When I got honest, it really wasn't so hot. The next time I did my inventory, I missed a lot because believe me, yeah, there was a lot more than just girlfriend. Could have, because it said my girlfriends, not anybody else's girlfriends, right? So I never put them on the list, only my own. So the next time, this is what one of the next times, what was suggested is this. You write down every man, woman, child, animal that you've had sex with or interested in having sex with, any fantasy, any sex toy, any prostitute, any of those things that you interacted with, you put those things down. And that's what I did, right? And I made some tremendous discoveries. We'll get more into them next week. But I listed all of those things, okay? And it says we're going to review our sex conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? You can break those down into three questions. There's going to be 9 or 10 questions here that we're going to go through in this sex inventory. And for me to do a thorough sex inventory, I need to apply each and every single one of my instances to every single one of these questions. I need to ask myself this in this, and I'll get more specific next week. I need to ask each one, where was I selfish? Was I selfish? Where was I dishonest? Where had I been inconsiderate? Whom had I hurt? And this is what's interesting. And I want you guys to think about this between now and next week. You're in this relationship, you know that you hurt your partner, but ask yourself this, as a result of hurting your partner, did anybody else get hurt? Were there any family members? Were there any friends that got hurt? Were there any colleagues at work that got hurt as a result of this? See, when I started to get honest about how it is and who it is that got hurt, I started to realize that my sex issues went way further out than I ever imagined. Much, much further out than I ever imagined. I also discovered that I also, believe it or not, as a man, I use sex as a weapon, right? I use it as a weapon and I use it as currency. Okay. Because see, I could take a girl out or a girlfriend or whatever it is to a nice dinner, buy her a nice pair of shoes, get her a new dress. And then guess what I think I'm entitled to a little later? I think I'm entitled to a little nookie, right? That's what I think I'm entitled to. And the truth is that I've been thinking about that before when I was buying her these shoes. Maybe it's the first date, right? Maybe it's the first date and I want to impress the heck out of her, right? Because I've got plans, right? Now, whether it ends up with me getting sex or not isn't relevant. The truth is that I had that as a motivation. This is why I did this for this person, because I was hoping that she would be impressed and that she would just want to throw herself at me to give me what it is that I felt that I was entitled to. I don't know if that's making any sense. We'll get further into this next week, but these are just some of the thoughts that I discovered as I went through this, that I how my sex life touched so many different people. Now, how about my mother and father? You know, a couple of times I brought home several different women that they really liked, that it appeared as though we were in a serious relationship and I might be marrying them. And then they develop a relationship with them. And turns out I had no intention of being serious with these girls at all. I wasn't going to go down there, No, no, this is just a rotation. You guys, come on, it's seasonal. They got to go. They got to go. Right. But see, that's where I was. That's how selfish and self-centered and dishonest I was. But then I can also tell you this about the relationships that I got into with women, whether they were attractive or not, wasn't relevant with some of them. The truth is that I was really lonely and I was feeling really insecure. And I don't like to be alone and I don't like to feel insecure. And that I would steal their emotional security from them to make me feel secure. Right? Why would I do that? Because I'm not trusting and relying upon God because I'm selfish and self-centered, right? And I would mislead them thinking that while we're going with this relationship's actually going to go somewhere, that I'm committed to them. Well, I am right up to the point that the next one comes along and then they're out, right? Right. I don't know if this is landing with any of you guys, but these are all the things that I discovered. So the only thing I got 21 seconds left. Aren't you guys glad that I took the last 10 minutes? Huh? Um, so what I'm going to suggest, just for a fun little thing, right, between now and next Monday, ask yourselves these questions. Ask yourself, how far out did your sex life spread? In what areas did sex really touch? Right? It's not just about the act of sex, it's about the motivation, right? All right. It's been an honor and a privilege, guys. I appreciate you all. Thank you.